and welcome back to the Cuse Conversations podcast. I'm Keith Copeland, Associate Director of Media Relations, and on this week's Cuse Conversations, one of Syracuse University's best-known alums prepares for the Olympics.
When we say the Olympics brings the world together, I don't mean to be too Pollyanna about it, because the Olympics are flawed in many ways. They are impacted by politics and corruption and all this stuff. That's happened. Those stories have been well reported for years. But just the fact that there's somebody in South Sudan who is training the same way somebody is training in South San Francisco for the same event, and they get to meet in the middle and figure out who's better, that's still really freaking cool for me.
Our guest today on the Cuse Conversations podcast really needs no introduction, but I must. It's Mike Tirico from our class of 1988, and probably one of the best known in the field of sports broadcasting. Full disclosure, Mike is also a friend who I worked with in local TV many years ago. He's currently preparing for the Olympic Games in Paris, hosting coverage as he's done since 2016. During our conversation, we talked about his work with Olympic coverage, his most memorable moments, his sleep schedule, and of course, his love for his alma mater. But first, his upcoming assignment, and of course, I had to ask him about what to expect, including the new and unique this summer. Let's start it off. New sports at the Olympics are always the big story, Mike. Yeah. What's your favorite breakdance team? How do you see things handicapped for this Olympics?
Yeah, thankfully there's an age limit, or if there's not, I'm putting one in. That's not happening for me, right? Man, Keith, it's a strange deal. We're of the similar generation that you grew up in breakdancing was something you'd see in New York on a street corner, or people would try it in different places, and then you'd watch it proliferate to some kind of entertainment form. But I never thought it was something you'd see in the Olympics. But it does speak in a small way to what the Olympics does. It's keep trying to reach out to new generations and keep the youth of the world involved. There was a time, Keith, that snowboarding came in the Olympics and people were saying, what are you talking about? Now snowboarding is one of the cornerstones of the Winter Olympics. So the Olympics have done this for generations, tried to grow with where people are being active. And, I said, I'm a stick and ball guy. I like so the score is 4-3 or 3-2. It seems hard to judge. Well, gymnastics is hard to judge to the naked, untrained eye, and so too is figure skating. They all look beautiful. I can't tell the microscopic difference. The judges can. This is the same thing. So because of all those complexities, I will not be breakdancing.
I was going to say, I can't use the term bust a move in this case, can
I? No.
Okay.
Correct.
So you've been doing the Olympic coverage. I mean, obviously the variety of sports, but Olympics specifically since 2016, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Is there a memorable moment? Can you pick one out? Is it possible?
Yeah, there are some that are competition driven. This will be the 5th Olympic Games I cover. The 4th is the primetime host. And, watching Americans win gold medals in person for some of the times we took the studio on the road to host the show, those stick out for me. And I don't mean to be negative about it. One's a positive, one's a negative, but it's a little bit of the geopolitical that comes to the Olympics. One of the negatives was being at the opening ceremony in Beijing in the winter of 2022, and about 25 yards this direction from where I was hosting the opening ceremony was Xi and Putin. And they had just done their meeting about this unbreakable bond and all of this. And really, you started to see some of the seeds of pre-Ukraine happening right there. That'll be like one of those moments I go, wow, like that was history, right? And then watching the Chinese delegation come in at home, and then you see members of the Uyghurs come in who were part of the human rights conversation with China. They march in the opening ceremony as kind of a, hello, we hear what you're saying, world, about our human rights, and we're just going to put it right in the middle of the opening ceremony and pretend like it's all good. That was impactful, life-changing for me. The other one was watching in Pyeongchang, South Korea, watching North Korea and South Korea walk in as a unified team, watching people in the same uniforms, in the same group walking in, who, if they were seen connecting, conversing together in the name of sport at any other time, not under the flags of the Olympic rings, there would be problems. A North Korean walking in South Korea and vice versa, you're taken away and detained. Here they were embraced together as one Korea. Sadly, in the 6 years since, nothing's happened to further that. But the Olympics brought it together. And for me, my other side of the street from Newhouse at Syracuse is Maxwell. I'm a political science major. Like those were like historic world global events, and to be right in the building with that happening is stuff I'll never forget. Maybe lasting a bit longer than Nathan Chen winning gold in ice skating or different figure skating or different things that we've seen along the way.
I will get to your news acumen in just a moment, because I think that does play a role here in all of this. The fact that this has been a passion of yours through the years. But for the Olympics, though, Mike, 10,000 athletes, 30 different sports. How do you? I think I've seen the binder for your research. How do you find the time? Obviously, the research is important.
Well, I'm now hip and young, so I keep them as PDF files and I annotate on my iPad. So yes, I am next gen. I am saving the world one binder at a time. We're not printing out all these tree killing binders for me. No, Keith, if I've learned anything, it's you can't be prepared for everything at the Olympics. The key is to know how to access it. And oftentimes that is our research team. The unheralded heroes of Olympic coverage for generations have been and continue to be the research teams who work year round on the details of what are the rules for breaking competition. If surfing is happening in Tahiti at the Olympics, I put up my hand to volunteer to be the surfing correspondent. For some reason, they went with Colin Jost from Saturday Night Live. I don't know what I should read into that, but it's fine. I don't know surfing details of, well, wait, what does that mean in terms of the big competition? But our research team has done that work. So for me, in the lead up to it, it's go over all the stuff so you know where it is, but don't memorize it because you can't. You can't know anything about each of the 10,000 plus athletes or every sport, all the 200 plus countries or delegations that will come down the river, in this case, the opening ceremony in France. So it is learn how to prepare for it, and really focus in on the stuff we cover the most. That's swimming, gymnastics, track and field, basketball, volleyball, beach volleyball, women's soccer. The men's team made it for the U.S. Know that, and then know the big athletes, the 50 or so that will become somewhat familiar names to households around America, and the global ones too, like Leon Marchand, who's a swimmer from France who goes to Arizona State, who could be the home nation star of the games, or Summer McIntosh, a teenager from Canada who's a swimmer who was motivated to become a great swimmer because of Katie Ledecky's success, and now could very well beat Katie Ledecky in a freestyle race in these Olympics. So that's where you try to learn the stories that you know are going to matter, and when the ones come up that are the wows that make sports exciting, you know how to scramble and get there.
Exactly. And having that background that you have too, I'm sure you dip into that background knowledge. It's not as if, you're gaining new knowledge, obviously, but having done this for a while, you have the experience. So
great point, and it's a big help. You kind of know where you're not starting from zero. You're starting from, okay, I remember this in Tokyo, and let's just build on that. And I think, Keith, during the years now as well, maybe I wouldn't have been paying attention to the World Swimming Championships that were going on. But now that I know this is my job and I'm getting ready for this Olympics, which gets you ready for the next one, you pay more attention. So the Marchands or the McIntoshes, who I just mentioned, global athletes, international athletes, are on my radar way before I open up a book and say, okay, today is swimming day. Let's start cramming for swimming. It helps significantly to have some gray hair in the chair, I would say.
Not a lot, just a little.
No, none, but that's okay.
Still look wonder, but come on. Now, what is it? You mentioned a day. I think I just saw, am I mistaken, where you and Snoop Dogg are going to be something prime time too? Prime time Paris, which is what, 2 a.m. their time?
Yeah, I'll be hanging with Snoop at 2 a.m. in Paris. What could go wrong, right?
This is a whole other.
Good luck. Yeah, there's a whole, no. So it was interesting. We tried to figure out, how do you boost the Olympics? Look, our world is very complicated in terms of entertainment options. There are a lot of them out there. So we see, when we show up every 4 years with the Olympics, you don't have the same carryover you used to in the three-channel world of the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, when we became familiar and household names with Olympic stars, and they were on boxes of Wheaties and all that stuff. Now, the marketing, really, sports marketing has a lot of roots in the Olympics. Sports marketing happens everywhere at every level. High school players, all the collegiate players, pro players, proliferation, growth of women's leagues, popularity of all these sports. So you don't have a place for those Olympians to stay on the radar. So I think a lot of people have lost touch with what makes the Olympics unique, special, and captivating. So we're trying to reach out to different demographics. Snoop is a great connector of that. He's brilliant. He's a terrific communicator. He's super talented, well-known, connects with athletes, families. So we're going to put him to, as is known globally. So we're going to put him to use. He's going to be a little bit of our tour guide for Paris. He's going to spend time with some athletes. He's going to get to do some fun things with Olympians who you know and love. That'll give you a little bit of a reason to laugh. So the reason it has a place, Keith, without getting too in the weeds here for our Olympic coverage, we're going to be live across America during the day. So 8 to 11 Paris time is 2 to 5 East Coast time. We're going to be live on NBC on the broadcast network showing the biggest events of the day live in the middle of the afternoon. So we're going to come back and reprise those at night. And we're not just going to put the VCR tape in and go, okay, here's the VHS, let's hit play. And here's what we did 3 hours ago. We're going to dress it up a little bit. And in addition to having behind the scenes with athletes and their parents, deeper analysis of stuff, we give you a little sprinkling of things around Paris because it's such a great city. So that's where a Snoop will come into play and other celebrities who are going to be a part of our coverage. We won't take away from delivering the meat and potatoes of competition and the athletes. But when we come back and show it at night, it's going to feel like a primetime show a little bit more. So that's why you start adding people who may help widen the net of the folks who are consuming the Olympics.
Oh, you kidding me? Tirico and Snoop Dogg, I love it.
Be hanging, man. He's called me Mikey. He's called me. He said, Mikey, I'm the Robin to you. I'm your Robin, you're Batman. I'm like, okay. In what universe did this happen? But it's cool. So I've got it on tape forever, and I'm going to live with it.
These are. I love this, by the way. I would be excited that again get too far off. These are long days, though, Mike. Seems like these are going to be long. It's not that you're not used to it, but these are up early, work until 2 a.m. in some cases.
Yeah, we should be the end of our show is 5 a.m. U.S. time, East Coast time. So it'll be you'll be working a graveyard shift for 2.5 weeks. Look, I'm talking to a guy who I know did a lot of morning radio and morning TV in your life, and you know that Bryant Gumbel had the best line, Keith, the legendary Today Show host. And to clean it up as much as possible, he said, hey, it really stinks, used a different word, for the first 15 minutes you wake up no matter what time it is. So you just have to get used to it. And then you move on. And that's exactly the way I'm looking at it. It'll be fine. Get good 5-6 hours of sleep a night. You don't sleep much in an Olympics. And then you just get back up and rinse, repeat for 17 straight days.
That's it. Once you're awake, you're awake.
You're up. Let's go.
That's it. So, okay, we've covered breakdancing. I think you've mentioned some of the other big storylines. Is there anything that we should be, as we kind of wrap up the Olympic part of this, anything else that we should be kind of keeping an eye out for?
Keith, what I'm excited to see in general is how many athletes come back from 2021 and succeed in 2024. Remember, Tokyo, last Summer Games 2020, delayed by COVID, pushed a year. I think a lot of athletes looked ahead at that next Olympic quad, as we call it, the 4 years between games, and said, well, it's 3. Maybe I'll hang around. So I think we may see a lot of Olympians with experience come back and contend for medals. And that Olympic experience is so important. I think that'll be a big storyline. I think the USA-Australia swimming rivalry will be a big storyline right out of the gate in the first full day of competition on Saturday. I think Simone Biles' return, greatest of all time, disappointment in Tokyo as she openly dealt with mental health issues that impacted her ability to perform at the elite level she established for many years. She can come back and perform at a high level. She's been sensational in the run-up to it. So all those things, I think, are kind of those headlines. And the last one I'll say is U.S. track and field could be an exceptionally strong team. And there is a chance that America could have the fastest man and woman winners of the 100 meters in both disciplines, and that hasn't happened since the 80s. So some great storylines out there that I think will play out over the games. And of course, there's all the typical political story, Russia not there, China accused of doping in the swimming space last time around. Obviously, what's happening in the world is sensitivity to not just Ukraine and Russia, but the Middle East as well. France and England, both in the middle of elections, right there in the seat, the hot seat that is Europe in European politics. So there's always that buzzing around. The Olympics will never be apolitical. They'll always have some element of that. So I think all those things together are all sitting out there, and one of them will rise to the top of the burner.
And sometimes it's the beauty of putting the politics aside to just focus on the athletic competition too at the end of the day.
Yeah, you're so right, Keith. You think about it, you're over 200, usually 205 or 6 delegations or territories that walk in, or in this case, float into the opening ceremony. That's the largest gathering in the world. That's a larger gathering of countries and territories than you get at the United Nations General Assembly. So when we say the Olympics brings the world together, I don't mean to be too Pollyanna about it, because the Olympics are flawed in many ways. They are impacted by politics and corruption and all this stuff that's happened. Those stories have been well reported for years. But just the fact that there's somebody in South Sudan who is training the same way somebody is training in South San Francisco for the same event, and they get to meet in the middle and figure out who's better, that's still really freaking cool for me.
Yeah, and I'll as we end the Olympic part of this too, just the visual, as you mentioned, the opening ceremonies where you have countries marching in, and in some cases it might be 1 or 2 athletes, and that's sometimes what brings it home, that it's 1 or 2 people representing an entire nation.
If you are a fan of bingo and you want to set up a bingo card for the opening ceremony, I guarantee you at some point I will mention, as one of those countries is introduced, their Olympic moment is right there. Their Olympic moment is being a part of the 10,000 athletes, of getting the chance to be one and the same with LeBron James and Simone Biles and the great athletes of the world. They are an Olympian. And if we went to Angola, or if we went to Auckland, New Zealand, and I said, I'm an Olympian, which I'm not, but he said, people would get that. Now, if you say, hey, I'm the first team All-America quarterback from Syracuse, people are like, what do you mean? What? When you say I'm an Olympian, everybody around the world knows what that means. So what you see when those athletes come in is their Olympic moment, and that's an achievement of a lifetime for many of them. And it's really cool that we get the chance to chronicle their stories, share their stories, and watch them compete.
I want to switch gears slightly. This is a Syracuse University podcast.
Yes.
You obviously, Mike, a class of 88, big part of the Orange family, board of trustee. You mentioned taking classes too. Very involved in Newhouse, and I want to touch on that in a moment. But why is it important for you to give back? I mean, you are someone who is really so generous with your time, and I've seen this in many examples. Why do you do it?
I love our school, period. Exclamation point. Let me change the punctuation there. I love our school. Man, Syracuse, I was a first gen in my family before we were using that term, first gen college student. And I just look back now and I learned so much professionally, personally. My best friends, my Syracuse friends, got married to a Syracuse alum. We met on campus, got married in Hendricks Chapel, spent time there afterwards working with you and the rest of our friends at WTVH, who are still, some of my dearest friends. Not a week or two goes by that I don't share a text or connect with Kathy or Tracy Davidson or John Eves, my old sports partner at Channel 5. Stayed in touch with a ton of folks. You is when I come up to campus as well. So there's that. And then there's the appreciation I gained during my time at school for the people who came back to share what Syracuse meant to them to help us, whether they were off air or on air. I remember going to Newhouse 2 when it was still a relatively new building, and Bob Costas or Marv Albert or Dick Stockton or Len Berman or other producers behind the scenes would come in and share their knowledge. And I always thought one day I'd like to be a person who comes back and does that. And that's where my connection of giving back to the university really started. And it just continued to manifest and grow. And I actually have just as much passion and interest for what happens across campus as I do what happens with athletics or a Newhouse. I love the the things that the school has done at a very high level for the student experience, for the way the university has been thought leaders, especially under Chancellor Siverd's tenure and leadership. And I'm just really proud of our school. Are we perfect? No, nothing in life is perfect. But the team that tries to get it done on a regular basis is awesome. And that's my fellow trustees who I get to serve with, the administration, the faculty. We've got the parents, the students. And Keith, that's the one thing that always fuels me. You come there and speak to students, man, you feel like oh, our future's good. Every once in a while you sit there and go, our country's doomed. Until you sit around college students and you're like, damn, we're going to be, if we can just get you guys in charge now, we'll be all right. It's a long, long way of saying I just love the fuel and energy that Syracuse provided me to get started, the support all the way through my professional endeavors, and still today. It's the proudest thing that I can say about my education, my profession, that I'm Newhouse alum, Syracuse alum, and that Newhouse Mafia, quote unquote, we all find each other on the road and have great pride in that as well.
Well, and that's what I've seen in action, Mike. The fact that you do, I mean, for a person who is as well known and busy, I mean, again, never is the answer no when it comes to a student that wants to talk with you or that you make time for. I mean, I've seen this. Again, I know this is not so much a question as a statement, but
Yeah.
I can see how it is such an important part of your life, and the students can appreciate that too. But you're someone who is very valuable with your time, not a person who seems to have a lot of it, but still you give of it so freely.
I wish I had more time for more students, and maybe as I get older and retire someday down the line, I'll follow in your footsteps and do some more of that. I love the curiosity of students. I find students will ask you better questions than journalists sometimes. There's an unfiltered boldness and carefree approach to life that is refreshing when you're 18, 19, or 20. And I have a couple of kids who just finished their college education, to see, people who look a lot like the kids who grew up under your roof just recently and watch them in these settings is fun. I love being on campus, love being in the classroom. And that's something, as I come up to campus at least once a quarter semester, I get disappointed in some ways that I spend so much time with our business as trustees and our meetings, which are hugely important to the future of the university. But I'd like to grab an hour or two more to be in the class and just listen and be a resource. I think any of us who are alums, can we be a resource to the people who are following us? At the end of the day, it makes our degree more valuable. I think we all have an intense pride in Syracuse. We all have a Syracuse story. So many of us overcame something and found that community connecting us on that campus. And that really is the foundation for who we are and what we do. And I just love being able to share that passion and hopefully vision with the people who are in the formative years now on campus.
You definitely do. Is there a top tip that you ever have for them? Is there that one kind of key message that you might have for the students?
Yeah, preparation. We were talking about the Olympics before, but it's everything. I'm one of those who doesn't feel really comfortable unless I'm prepared to do something. And I just feel like that preparation helps not only in your ease with getting in front of a camera or a microphone or behind a newspaper or behind a camera. I just feel that preparation allows you to perform at your best and be yourself on the air. And that comfort, it's like, when you cram for a test and you're not ready, or when you're ready for a test. There's a different feeling in your stomach. One's a pit of fear in your stomach. The other one's an adrenaline rush. Like, I can't wait to get this and crush this, right? And I think preparation helps you to the latter more than the former. So I love personally sharing with students, hey, even people who are out and now doing this, be prepared. If you don't know the rules, learn them, figure them out, be as prepared as you can, because that's one way you can free yourself up to execute as best as you can.
As we wrap up this Cuse conversation with Mike Tirico, I've got two more questions for you here, Mike.
Yeah. Okay.
First, unlike another colleague of ours at WTVH, David Muir, I don't think you had a TV news set up in your basement. I could be mistaken.
No, I did not.
But you did know at an early age this was something you wanted to do. How did you know? I mean, how did young Mike Tirico know this is what he wanted to do?
I wish I knew the answer to why, but my mom will tell you, even as a little kid, I was walking around pretending to be a sportscaster, and this is what I wanted to do in life. Maybe it was because I realized at an early age I was not going to be the athlete that I hoped to be, and the next natural connection to sports was going to be a team trainer or doctor, and I didn't have the science background or love of science to have that acumen. So maybe this was the next best thing. And even on campus, I started working. My first assignment for the Daily Orange as a freshman was the field hockey beat. And I learned field hockey. And I found that while very enjoyable and around some great women who were very helpful in learning the sport, I enjoyed the challenge of talk about it as it's happening, as opposed to watch it, do the interviews, and go back and write the story. I was very much pulled to the live microphone, the radio, eventually television part of the job. So I was able to kind of find all those challenges. And Keith, it makes a difference because, we're 50 some odd years removed from me indicating to my mom, I want to be a sportscaster someday. And I'm still doing the job. And it still wakes me up every day excited for the next assignment or the next challenge or the next day on the air. It doesn't get stale. It doesn't get boring. Does the travel factor? Yes. Does it get a bit overwhelming at times with the volume of stuff? Yeah, sure. But the joy doesn't change. And I still have as much joy for the job now as I did when I was sharing a newsroom with you back in Syracuse.
Mike, and of course that is a perfect segue. Let's end this podcast the way it began for you and me back at 980 James Street many years ago. I should mention what a student of news you were even back then. Would come into the newsroom, would critique copy. You were always on top of things that were going on in not just in the sports world but in news too. What would Mike of today told Mike Tirico back in the late 1980s?
Yeah, I was a news nerd back then. I still am now. I'll have news on more often than I'll have sports on in my office at home. I just love the energy that a newsroom provides when there's breaking news going on, and was lucky enough to watch people like yourself produce, get on air, become a great anchor, a great reporter, and watch so many of our friends do that along the way, right? What a team we had. Sidebar, there was a big anniversary for Channel 5, station that no longer has its own independent newsroom or individual newsroom, shares it with Channel 3. But man, we had 75 years of memories and talent and just great stories, and a whole bunch of people showed up, and it felt like it was a family reunion, which says everything you need to know about that place. It was a hell of a place. To answer your question, I wish I could tell younger Mike to have a little broader view and be adventurous more. I think being adventurous as a journalist is impactful, and I think over time, we start to feel that a bit more, right? I think, you've done the job, you've established yourself. It's so hard to fake confidence, but that's what you have to do at an early age. I'm 21, 22. Here I am trying to ask Jim Boeheim a question. Jim Boeheim at that point knew 1,000 times more about basketball than I did. And I'm trying to ask an impactful question and make a difference. And I wish I would have had a little more ability to fake my confidence and get through that stuff back then. And that if you're prepared, you're going to be all right. And you don't have to doubt yourself. And I think self-confidence is a very fine line. Because I think you can lose sight of it and get too lost in what you're doing, because we are all replaceable. Chris Berman was one of the best people ever to do SportsCenter. Dan Patrick and Keith Olbermann were exceptional on SportsCenter over their time. God rest his soul. Stuart Scott's phenomenal. All of that. Scott Van Pelt on SportsCenter is just as good as all those guys were, and just as impactful in a different generation. We are all replaceable. So while you have your time in that seat, I wish I could have told my younger self to just be more aggressive, be more bold, and be more confident. Do it in a way that's not cocky or conceited. So I think that would be the advice I would pass. And maybe enjoy the ride a little bit more. I think our heads are always down, trying to get to the next job and the next accomplishment and the next milestone. And maybe you don't take enough time to take it all in and enjoy it. I'm doing more of that now than I used to. I get to a city and I'll make sure that I walk around the city and just know the downtown a little bit, as opposed to let me stay in for 5 more minutes and figure out what the 13th player on this NBA roster last did for a good game, or when his last good game was. Sometimes there's a balance, and I think we learn that over time.
Yeah. Mike, I have nothing else to ask, and your time is so valuable. We really appreciate hearing from you, and certainly we will be watching this summer as you are hard at work covering the Olympics for us.
With a bunch of Orange folks. We've got a great Syracuse alumni group that's part of our NBC team as well, about half dozen of us. So we're in front of the camera, let alone people behind the camera. So, and as usual, there's always a great group of young people who are making their first steps in their career, who are coming through the Olympic family as well. So we're super proud that no matter where the Olympic rings show up, the Orange S isn't too far away. So we'll be repping Syracuse in our own ways. And thanks to you, one, for doing this, because these are great. I love listening to this over the year and hear the different connections with Syracuse and all the Syracuse folks. And thanks for being such a good friend. People like you make the Syracuse experience truly what it's all about. So thanks, Keith.
And Mike, thanks to you, and keep up the great work. That'll do it for our conversation with Syracuse University's Mike Tirico. I'm Keith Copeland, with a special thanks to show host John Boccacino for letting me sit in this week to talk to an old friend. John will be back with our next episode of Cuse Conversations.